We'll do 7 NUFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications options. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Thanks for
attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. It is the three amigos, the perfect way to kickstart your derby weekend. And welcome to Mitch, Steve, George, and to you at home, as we have just over an hour and a half of entertainment lined up for you. And don't forget, if you've got any questions, get them in. We do entertain them, and we also ask you to send in some emails. And if you want to send an email, it's not too late. nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. I am a little bit ropey with the old voice after my trip to Leverkusen, and didn't get much chance to talk about it last night, but I did get a chance to say thank you to everybody who I met who came up and spoke about the podcast and asked us to pass on my best to all you lads, and just said thanks for everything we do. An amazing feeling every time somebody comes up and says that, and it really was much appreciated, and we had a cracking time out there. Germany, as Mitch and Stu can tell you from going out to watch the Dortmund game a couple of years ago, is definitely the best place to go and watch European football. It's a welcoming city, welcoming country, welcoming place, and just amazing. Yeah, an amazing time was had by all, and bring on the next one is what we all say. But let's get straight into the questions. We will, of course, look at the derby a little bit later on. We'll have a special guest on as well, so we will focus on that just after the tweet of the week, in which there's some absolute belters. But we've got a question sent in, which we'll start with. It's a bit of fun from Darren. He sent it to Mitch. He says, fun question for the amigos or the professionals. There's not many things you guys haven't talked about down the years, but this would be a new one. The question is, out of the squad that's won us the League Cup, is there anyone in the team you think could go on to manage the club in the future? Thanks, Darren. Good little question. I do like something that's completely different to what other people are talking about. So, Mitch, you've had time to think about that. He sent it to you. Who's management material in that lineup?
In a very interesting and different thing to talk about. Managers never come from the players you expect, I don't think. And it's not very often great players make great managers. The managers seem to come from left field sometimes. And sometimes managers are sort of picked out from the start. I seem to remember when Southgate and Coleman were playing together at Crystal Palace. Everybody in the squad had them both earmarked as future managers. For me, a little left field maybe, but Trippier. The way he behaved when he was first signed, when he broke his foot, and knew the importance of him being in and around the dressing room still. The way he's handled himself with a number of off-the-field issues, which could have had players throwing their toys out the cot and want to leave and all sorts. And I'm sure he came close to leaving a couple of times, but didn't. He can lean on a wealth of experience that could be respected. He had a young man going off the rails a little bit. He would be very well within his rights to say, hey, I've been there and got the T-shirt with this. Do you want to have a chat? Bearing in mind, in his previously in his career, wasn't he suspended briefly for betting irregularities when he was younger? You know, he's not been a whiter than white pro.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that gives him credibility if he wants to kick somebody up the arse for doing something wrong, because he can turn around and say, well, been there, done that, got a T-shirt, pal. And he seems to be somebody that people gravitate to as a leader. Sometimes subtly, not necessarily a big shouter or an arm waver. So out of all of them, when I've had a little think about it this afternoon, yeah, Trippier.
Okay, Trippier. Steve?
It is. It's a great question, by the way, and it's quite. I agree wholeheartedly with what Mitch says. You know, sometimes the players that you least expect become the best managers, and I think it's very difficult to, you know. I mean, Shearer's a perfect example, isn't he? You know, everybody said, "Oh, he'd be a great manager." He had a go at it, didn't work out. I think probably jumped in at the wrong time and tried the wrong thing. The player, I think, and I know people are saying Dan Burn, but the player, I think, out of the squad, he wasn't in the final 11, but I think has a certain gravitas, a certain standing, a mental strength, and that would be Jamal Lascelles. I would look at Lascelles as being the sort of former player who would move into management possibly. And why not Newcastle United? I think there's something about him. We know as a youngster, the leadership qualities that he showed at the time, among that squad when we had all the issues, the way he handled himself, the way he handled some of the more experienced players who seemed to have a constant sort of huff about things that were happening, things that weren't right. And I think the whole issue, you know, by the scruff of the neck, didn't he? And shook the squad out of its absolutely ridiculous situation that it was dragging itself into. So for me, I would say Lascelles.
Okay, George.
Well, my two young colleagues have picked the two names I was floating around in my mind, because for me they're standouts really. The other thing I'd add about Trippier is that noticeable when he was when he was captain and in the team, if we've got any new signings, he was always at the dressing room to receive them when they came to the medicals and things like that. He did all the right off the pitch things you'd want a manager to do, even though he was just the captain. And the same with Lascelles. I don't think it's any accident that somebody who was made captain by Rafa at quite a young age for many reasons has held it on and has retained the respect of that squad. Nobody ever even hints at the notion that it's daft having Lascelles as club captain and somebody on the pitch as the other captain. And that's because of the respect he's got. And I agree with Stevie, that could translate into somebody who could equally be a good, sensitive manager. And the other one, Steve mentioned briefly, that I played with was Dan Burn. He's done it all. He's now reaping the rewards of hard work with England and with Newcastle United. But also, it's noticeable how he's an organizer on the pitch. He's a Joe Harvey. Even for England, you watch when they're lining up for corners and all the rest of it. Who's telling people where to go and what to do. And Tuchel has said more than once that's one of the reasons he likes him in his squad, because he's a leader. He's a leader. So I think if we're looking for, to go hard back to the days of a local manager, then Dan Burn's the one that stands out. It would not surprise me even if he left the club at some stage, he didn't come back and be involved on the managerial side, because he has it in him by the look of it, and the way he handles himself generally, both on and off the pitch. So I think we've got a very fortunate. We've got a wealth of riches, I think, in the club at the moment with people like that. But I think the lads are right. Trippier, Lascelles, and as I said, last one would be Dan Burn for me.
Yeah, okay. I would say that Jacob Murphy would probably fill in the Terry Mack role. I'm going out there now, but I can't go much further than Dan Burn, Lascelles, or Trippier. I think those are the three which really stand out. A lot of people, the only other name getting chucked in is Fabian Schär. Emil Kraft by Benny, a tryer with limited ability, good pro. He'd be the best manager from our crop. I'll have to come back to this video in 10 years to gloat. It's a good point. It's a good point, because Mitch did say that usually it is a player. Maybe that doesn't stand out as somebody who will come through. So it will be interesting anyway. It will be interesting to see. I'm already seeing the comments going there. There'll be a couple of Mackhams looking in, wondering why we're not talking about the derby. We'll talk about it a little bit towards the end of the show. Keep posted for that.
Go on. Can I just make a point for those Mackhams tuning in at the moment? What you ever talk about? This is your entire world. For us, it's just another match on Sunday.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's a good point, which is the point that Mickey B put out. Sunderland's biggest game in 7 years, Newcastle's third biggest game in 7 days. Levels. Exactly, Mickey. Exactly. Last minute goals. It's becoming a problem. Is it something that can be solved, Mitch? I showed Supermark this last night. Leverkusen, of course. Midweek, 88 minutes. Burnley, 94. Spurs, 95. Brentford, 95. West Ham, 97. Brighton, 85. Arsenal, 84. Arsenal, 96. Liverpool, 100. So we've got 9 games there. Really where concentration, fitness, something's not going right. We can say really with the Brentford game, West Ham game, the games were over.
Games were gone.
Games were gone.
If you look at the games, it's cost what points in.
Yeah.
That's where it becomes more significant. Because I tell you, the last time I remember us having a perceived problem with this was interestingly, while Mackhams are watching, that playoff season when we lost to them in the playoffs. God, I remember somebody saying that if games were 80-minute long that season, we'd have gone up in second.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We conceded so many late goals. So when it becomes a problem over the full season, then it's something, yes, you've got to say that there's possibly something there. I think in that list, some of those goals are in games that were totally gone. Leverkusen, I'm still glass half full. For the thickness of the width of the coat of paint on 2 posts, would have been out of sight.
Yeah.
And would you have taken a point away from home in the Champions League in midweek before the kick-off? Yes, we probably would have. And I know I'm going to get accused of being a happy clapper and all of that, but I think it's one of these things we'll have to just take stock. The games I'm annoyed about, Liverpool, definitely. We were probably at fault for that. Arsenal, 100%. The one thing that game showed us is Arsenal have learned over the last 3 seasons how to try and cope with and give it back a bit. And you're seeing that in other Arsenal games this season. What I don't like is some of the things at the end of games look brainless. Like the Burnley game, that last 10 minutes was brainless. And I don't know where that comes from. We seem to be masters of the dark art of shutting certain games down. Take, for example, the 2 semi-finals against Arsenal in the Carabao Cup last year, where we really did shut the game down. instead of being able to do that this season, we look a little bit Dad's Army. And I don't understand where that's come from. That's what frustrates me. If I can understand fully where it's come from, no problem. But I can't understand where it's come from. And it's got me very frustrated. But we can't. If the human mind is amazing for wanting to look for patterns. And I think that's what Eddie was trying to say in his press conference the other day. That, you know, yes, are you seeing a pattern that kind of isn't a pattern? Don't really know. Does it worry me? Yes, of course it's a concern, because I still think we look like I say, Dad's Army at times at the back in the last 10 minutes of games. I wouldn't like to see we be like that at the weekend, because if we're in the position whereby we're 2-1 up with 10 minutes to play against that lot, one of the things they've shown this season is they will play to 99 minutes and they will play with the same intensity and fight to 99 minutes. That's why they've got some of the points they've got.
Some good comments coming in from people. There was one there from Gary, and he mentions Malcolm, Mitch. Listening to Malcolm last night, he mentioned making 3 subs at a time and how it disrupts the team. What are the lads' takes on this?
I don't think it should at all, because they should know what their roles are, and they should have it. They've had plenty of time to prepare those subs coming on for their own job and to tell the people around them what their jobs are. That's not an excuse.
Okay, interesting stuff, Steve. What's your feelings about this? This problem that we've adopted.
Mitch and I had this conversation in the very early hours of Thursday morning after the game, which, by the way, finished at like 2 a.m. in Dubai, and I think there was 3 or 4 of us sat around the table talking afterwards for a good half hour about this very thing, the conceding of a goal, what we thought was happening. I mean, and it was interesting because Mitch has just repeated almost verbatim what we were talking about. And I do think there is, and I agreed at the time, I think there is a throwback to something that happened after the Arsenal 2 games, especially the first game, the first leg, when we played them there, and we seemed to, well, I think I talked about it in some of the conversations with you guys, that the substitutions that he made, substitutions where players came on in the right areas of the field, the right changes made at the right time, came on for a specific purpose, to string 10 men across the back, bringing on Longstaff when he did, and that type of thing where you think, right, the player's going on and knows exactly what he's doing. And I know Mitch has said it's not an excuse and it shouldn't be used as an excuse. But I think some of the players that we're bringing on are not attuned to exactly what their role is when they go on. I think some of them, I think that to me, it looks as though they're almost being given some form of instruction, but the minute they cross the line, that instruction's disappeared. And there's nobody, we don't have someone who really has a go at teammates during a game. There's nobody who's taking the game by the scruff of the neck, or taking their teammates by the scruff of the neck and shouting and demanding that they should be there and they should be there. Perfect example, the corners that we take, we let a corner in. We don't see anybody getting really, really angry because someone's made an error. Someone was off the post when he should have been on the post. Someone stepped back. Someone's gone into lazy mode at the back post and not marked his man who's come round him. An example the other night with the previous game with Dan Burn, where the lad got in front of him for the header, and you're thinking, Dan, it's minute, it's split second, but you're stepping away. You're not concentrating. You're not following your man. You're not getting your shoulder in, and you can push people around in the penalty area without actually committing a serious foul. But he didn't throw his head in. There was a huge gap when the lad nipped in and got the header. I think it was the Spurs game that I'm referring to. And you're standing almost behind the defender, the player in front of you as a defender, and you really, really need to be right alongside them. So I think there's tiny little things like that happening, but I think that there are some in the squad who probably in their head they think we can still play like we did against Arsenal in that last 20 minutes, and we can shut up shop and we can draw a line. I think the coaching staff possibly believe we can do it because they're encouraging it by some of the changes that they make. But I think the personnel's changed. You know, the defense has changed. The midfield is different, and it's just not right. This whether they need more coaching at it, whether they need reminded about how to do it or whatever. But for me, it's a shocking situation that you allow yourself to get into, switching off in the manner that you do. It's unprofessional. Is it the coach? Is he saying we come off the front foot? You know, if you're winning 2-1, should you be going for the jugular and go for 3? And should you be pressing, or should you be sitting back and inviting it on? At the moment, we are not a team that looks as though that we can cope either physically or mentally with allowing a team to come onto us. We could a couple of seasons ago. This season, we seem to be lacking that. That I don't know what it is. I don't know what that. There's a word out there that I'm trying to get it, but I can't think of the right sort of adjective to use or verb or noun or whatever you want to call it. But there's just something missing. There's something missing about them. Is it? I don't think it's something you can sort out necessarily on the training pitch. I think it's something that you have to sort out in a room. I think it's something that you have to sort out where everybody understands what their role is. And I think that, if someone is a yard away, a yard off, I think they need to be told by their teammates that was crap, that. You are at fault. I want fingers pointed at mistakes, and I want to see that leadership where they go absolutely scatty with someone. I understand with Bruno where he was like sort of after a game, he comes on against Spurs, he gets the goal, he thinks it's the winner, and then he goes in the press afterwards and he's telling us all how disappointed and angry he is. Well, let's see that on the pitch. Let's see you telling your teammates on the pitch for once that you're annoyed with them and you're angry with them, and get them G'd up and get them arguing back with you. And that way, the emotion, that might be the 1% that they're lacking. But I don't think there's that. I know we have a great leadership team, but I don't think we have that person who will actually square up to a teammate and tell him, you're out of order there, you were crap, you should have done this, you should have been here, you were there, cut it out. And then afterwards, then putting an arm around them and saying, right, so let's get it right the next time. Sometimes it's just something as simple as that.
Suggestion from Gary says, lads, is it possible the medical team bunch is having an effect on the team performances, conserving energy for larger periods, dropping the intensity and high line to lessen injuries? I mean, Mitch, coming back to you before I go to your dad, is that likely to be the case, do you think? I mean, it can change things. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry. Delicate balance.
Mm-hmm.
We have a delicate balance between how many minutes are going into people's legs at high intensity versus avoiding the injury situation that we've had in the past that everybody was so critical of. So can you have one or the other? I still think you can have both, and that's what they're trying to achieve. But it's yeah, we are again where everybody's looking for something or somebody to blame. For me, it's a collective problem, and we're conceding goals as a team. We sort that out as a team, surely. And it gets me frustrated because at the minute there seems to be this clamour that everybody has to be at fault for somebody somewhere has to be at fault for something.
Yeah, collective responsibility.
And really, everybody's at fault. And so, we've really the fine balance between making sure we don't get the injury list that we've had in the past versus trying to keep the level of intensity up is a really delicate one. But I don't see what high and subs on at 90 minutes does for that. Again, that seemed almost pointless to me. But they are making the decisions, not us. And we've got to roll with it and support it.
Yeah. George, feelings on this situation we found ourselves in?
Well, it's like all these things we're dwelling on it, so it becomes a in their minds now as well as anything else. And I've got to say, I when you say it's collective responsibility, Steve, I agree with you, but I include the manager in that, because when I look at those happenings, they're too close to substitutes and personnel not to be linked. There's the old-fashioned saying, you never substitute when it's a corner or a set piece or a dead ball. You always do it when the ball's away from the goal and in mid-play. Never when it's in a dead ball situation and the ball's going to come crashing into your area. And I think we don't always look at that very carefully. But if you look at those late goals, and if you look at both substitutions and the personnel that were substituted, then I'm sure you could find a link. And it may be that Neil said it before. It may be that 3 at a time at that end of the game is just not on. For me, it's not on because it doesn't disrupt one area of the field. It would disrupt several. And the net result is that you're left with 3 or 4 players who are struggling to think where the game is, and that's enough to let the opposition sneak in. So I would be looking at the manager's role as well as the players, that how many substitutes and the timing of them have been important. Plus the old adage, as I say, no substitutions when there's a dead ball or a corner or even a long throw these days. They're so prevalent now. So there's plenty to look at, but I think they've got to get it right quickly, and we need to move away from it quickly, because it's now, in fact, it's already a thing that's hanging around, and it must be in their minds, and that's the last thing you want when you're going on the pitch, is something in your mind that's so negative as this conversation. And Steve's right. The best place to sort that out is in a locked room with everybody together, saying what they really think, to get rid of it.
I tell you another aspect, Steve, that we're forgetting about. We're lack of goals. We're not putting teams to the sword. You know what? It's 2-1. We go 1 up. We don't lose, but it's 2-1 and a few minutes to go. In previous seasons, it would have been 4-1 up. 3-0 up, that type of thing. We're not putting teams to the sword. So because of that, we're inviting the situation to arise. So our lack of goals, our at times poor finishing, probably hasn't helped, because that's just another added dimension to the whole bigger picture that we're looking at. So I think that maybe that's an area that, if you knew that you had someone up front who was getting you, 20, 25 goals a season, and someone who was regularly scoring every game or every other game, was, even if they were only getting 1 chance a game, that 1 chance was getting a goal, that type of thing. And we're also seeing goals from across the park. But we're lack of goals, and going into a situation in those last 5-10 minutes where it's 1-0 or 2-1, in games when you should have really been out of sight. Burnley, you should have been out of sight. You look at Spurs in particular, should have been completely out of sight. Should have been finished at half time. Should have been 4-0 at half time.
Absolutely.
You invite them back in because you're not getting the goals and you're not putting yourself in that comfort zone where you're not going to worry. So I think that's probably another area that that is not helping anyway.
I mean, there was another interesting suggestion from Mal last night about Dan Burn, Mitch, and he suggested he might be the weak link only because we sit back. So when we score, we do sit back, and he was saying that, you know, sometimes it's as simple as that. You know, that players do tend to sit back and drop back, and that's it. Is it a tactical thing that Eddie can put right with a different formation? I mean, somebody mentioned to him at the press conference for Sunderland. It was embargoed, but I did manage to catch it on another YouTube channel last night, and he was talking about the midfield. I think it might have been Jordan Cronin or somebody else who asked the question. There was only 3 or 4 asked questions, but he mentioned obviously he was praising Lewis Miley, who we'll come on to, but he was saying that, you know, perhaps it's because our midfield tends to drop back. And, you know, that means that really what Dan Burn should be doing is pushing the lads up and pushing them out, but he doesn't. He drops further back. Malcolm was trying to suggest that might be another issue last night.
I don't see that personally. Because one of the problems that has been very evident at times in games is the gap between the midfield and the back four.
Yeah.
That people have exploited. So what's he going to do? Push it up and give them a problem whereby somebody can play through ball, take 2 midfielders and a centre back out with it at the same time. I don't think he wins in that one. I think that's a no-win situation. I think of everybody who's good at marshalling a back four. I saw it in Riyadh when he had a back four of kids that he was playing at left back in, and the only person that kept everybody together was Dan Burn. And so I don't think that's as much of a problem. I think my problems are elsewhere for me.
Steve?
Sorry, mate. I think the probably another dimension that we're not talking about is the change of keeper. You know, chopping and changing the keeper, but also chopping and change who's in front of that goalkeeper. You know, we have had issues at the back. We've had different full-back combinations. We've had different centre-back combinations. And you look back at, let's say, the Entertainers, the great season when we finished second, the steady defence that we had, the lack of conceding goals, the familiarity among that back four. And when the changes came, it wasn't like 2 changes or 3 changes at the back in a game. It was, you know, 1 and only because of an injury or something like that. So these are the small margins. I was going to use Man City as an example. I was going to say, you know, a goalkeeper comes in and he's steady and he stays in situ for the whole season, or for so far virtually every game since he signed in Donnarumma. Great goalkeeper. And then I remember the other night it was 5-4, and you think, dear me, what happened there? You know, they were 5-1 up against Fulham, and then you look at the team and you think, Guardiola did his old shuffling around, thinking about where he was going to be on the following game, you know. And sometimes little things by a manager like that can upset the apple cart. And then, I mean, Man City's a perfect example of 5-1 up, and then all of a sudden the panic sets in. You know, goes to 5-2 and then 5-3, and wow, I mean, it was nearly 5-all. We haven't quite been as bad as that, but just it's again those fine margins. You know, they talk about that 1%, changing a keeper, a goalkeeper playing in front of a particular centre half, and then the following week another one, and you know that slight hesitation that might come, not coming out. A goalkeeper who always punches, and then another goalkeeper who comes in who doesn't punch at all. Goalkeeper who always comes out and catches, a goalkeeper who stays on the line. You know, key parts of the game. A goalkeeper who doesn't have the ability or the confidence, or has yet to develop in that sort of shouting at his defenders and pushing them out when he wants to. Telling somebody who he wants on the line. It's all this organisation, and I think sometimes because of set piece coaches, you tend to get wrapped up in that kind of that mentality of, well, where does the coach want me to be? What did we do on Wednesday again? Oh yeah, it was Lewis on the front post. oh, hang on, was it Lewis? And all these type of things, and players are all over the place, and I think sometimes we analyse the fault and the problem, and we can analyse it to death. And sometimes it's just very, very simple things, one or two little changes, one or two alterations that need to be made. But unfortunately for us, it's costing points. And as Mitch said right at the beginning, we can't afford to do that. The games that we should have picked up points, and you look at them, it's that sort of, it's the old match of the day, the night scenario. You get the football pink, and you used to go, oh, what could have been if we won today? And we did it at the weekend. Look where we would have been. Would have been fifth. If we got that game in the Champions League, we got them 2 extra points, we'd have been up there sitting in 6, would have been in the top 8. We wouldn't have been worried, would have been above Liverpool, they'd have been below. All these type of sort of things going through your head, but it's so that's why we love football, innit?
It is. George, I mean, would a change in formation help? Would Eddie benefit more from that, or are we just missing a combative midfielder? Somebody who can get stuck in, a David Batty who can spoil things, and his job is to defend and take the pressure off the back four and get the team forward.
Well, that's part of the solution, but only part of it, as far as I'm concerned. It's that sort of person who can pressure the others to hang on till the end. That's for sure. And for a while, it looked like Joe Linton was the guy that could do that, but he seems to have gone into his shell a little bit. And if anything, at the moment, the one that could be doing that, it's just a pity he's so young, is Lewis Miley. But I'm not sure that that's the solution either. I'm still convinced that, in my own mind, that they need to look at the timing of the substitutes and the number of substitutes in games. And yes, if he wants to change 3, do it in 3 separate goes, not all at once, and disrupt the game with the substitutes to our benefit, because we don't seem to do that very much either. At the moment, what's happening is our substitutes seem to be benefiting the opposition. And I'm sure if they look carefully, they'll see a pattern.
Okay, going to move on to the next subject, which is Lewis Miley, and he's 19, Mitch. I said at the start of last week that one player to benefit from Elliot Anderson leaving Newcastle due to PSR was Lewis Miley. I mean, Lewis broke into the team ahead of Elliot, was the star pupil, if you like, but then picked up some niggling injuries, couldn't get back in the team because Elliot then took his chance, came in. But then Elliot got sold from beneath our feet because of PSR, and Eddie's reverted back to young Miley coming in, and he's grasped this chance, this opportunity that he's had with both hands, and he netted his first Champions League goal. Didn't look out of place in that, and hasn't looked out of place in any game he's played this season, I've got to be honest. And I think with the situation, I'll call it, around Joe Linton, I don't think he's become a bad player overnight. I think we've heard from Eddie on a couple of occasions he's been playing with a little niggle, as have other players, mind. And maybe that's affecting him. Maybe the injuries are starting to catch up with Joe Linton, and maybe there's an underlying issue. But maybe he just needs a rest. Who knows? Whatever it is. But from our perspective, we've got Lewis Miley knocking at the door now, and he could have gone. I mean, he was very close to going to Ipswich, and Newcastle almost lost Miley. I think it was in the summer. He could have gone there, and maybe he made it a permanent move. But from my perspective, he's probably got all the attributes. I think we talked about this on the professionals. I think we compare him to Michael Carrick, a young Michael Carrick. He's got the same kind of size, the way that he dominates games. He can pitch in with a goal. He can pick a pass. He doesn't get sucked into things. He's not flying into challenges like some others. So from my perspective, I think he's got his all-round game sorted out. Eddie knows how to get the best out of him. Is it time really for him to be part of that midfield 3?
Might be cometh the hour, cometh the man, mightn't it? It's interesting to read Sean Longstaff's recent comments about him since he's left the club, and him saying he wasn't worried about Newcastle signing a player to replace him. He was more worried about Lewis Miley taking his place in the team. I think that speaks volumes. Lewis Miley's got all the attributes to do whatever he wants. And his size and his intelligence with the football at his foot is undeniable. Can he add a bit of presence in the midfield where you'd hope he should be able to now? He's filling out, becoming more of a man. Interesting words from Eddie about him. I think a couple of weeks ago he come out and explicitly said he's not your ordinary teenager. Words like that don't come from a manager very easily. And so, and that's somebody who deals with them day in, day out. Of course, sadly, because of the way PSR works, we'll always be in a position to listen for bids because of the way that money could be recycled through for PSR. Going forward, that'll be a different matter. So, sensible, I think, to hang on and let him develop because he's getting the opportunities. Would be interested to see how that would have played out had Elliot Anderson still been at the club. Would Elliot Anderson be getting the opportunities? Would Lewis Miley be getting the opportunities? Would it be both? Would it be neither? We don't know how that would have panned out. I think he'd be a very interesting choice for the weekend because I think he's very unlike anything that the other opposition may have prepared for, because he genuinely can do a lot more going forward with the ball. And I think Joe Linton, one of the things he's been poor at in the last few games has been ball retention. And I think that's something that Miley can do with spades. Miley's another one who won't back away from a hospital pass. He'll actually ask for the ball in position when he's got a midfielder or a defender snapping at his heels and say thank you very much and try and do something with it. It's not many players will do that. And I think that's why the talk of Mountain was being not an average teenager. I think when you see how he interacts with the rest of the squad, he still has a wonderful... I don't want to call it innocence or naivety, but you know what I mean if I say that about him. That he's in a position where I think he can just get the ball and is encouraged to express himself. And the whole of the squad get behind that. Because they'll see what he can do on the training pitch day in, day out. There'll be flashes of things that he does on the training pitch that probably aren't teachable. That only certain players have. And as a local lad to be thrust into that midfield going into opposition territory, why the hell not? Go and make a name for yourself.
I've stuck a poll in the chat. 47 of you voted already. It's a resounding yes. Would you start Lewis Miley in the derby? But keep voting. We'll see where that goes. I don't think it's going to change much.
And a little addition, by the way. Certain individual on social media was trying to run in a narrative that Eddie was unhappy that Miley scored through midweek. Please, because I kind of talk to you through social media because you've got us blocked, but please just fuck off. And when you get there, fuck off a bit more.
That's a party political broadcast from Neil Mitchell. Steve, Lewis Miley.
Yeah, I mean, it's great that we're talking about a local lad, 19-year-old, and we've got supporters wanting them in the team. Usually it's the other way around. Usually when they get an opportunity, they want them out because they want some other superstar in. They want their own superstar. They don't want a local lad with, you look back over the years, some of the youngsters that have been hounded out of the football club, without getting a decent rub of the green. He's an interesting character. He's an interesting addition to the team. You mentioned Michael Carrick. I think Michael Carrick was a very, very good footballer. who managed to get through his entire career with no pace at all. I think Lewis has got a little bit more pace than that. Not much at the minute, but he's playing. He's developing a role for himself in the team. You know, someone that allows the likes of a Tonali or a Bruno to push on forward. And we talked earlier about the fact that we've got those two coming deep, and it's affecting. Now he's added goals to his game. I mean, it was a great goal. The question I have, I mean, not taking anything away from Lewis Miley, but why in the 74th minute was Lewis Miley in the box getting on the end of a cross? You know, that's not what I expected to see him. Great that he was there, but that was probably one of the first decent crosses that were put in. You know, but it's the lack of a striker. It's a lack of somebody in that forward position. Thankfully, Lewis was in the right place at the right time and got on to what turned out to be a really good cross. And what you can say about him is he scored a goal. We've got other players who are not players that you expect to be scoring goals. Anthony Gordon, he's just getting penalties at the minute. You look when he's playing. Murphy is not getting goals. He's not getting the goals that you expect or you want. Elanga isn't getting the goals. And these are all players that either Liverpool are worth 150 million in Murphy. Elanga, who we paid 50 odd million for. Gordon, I think he hasn't scored an outfield goal in the Premier League since like January last year or something, or the end of January this year, and we're now in middle of December. And then we're not, Tonali's not getting the goals that he should. So if Lewis Miley is going to be that lad who can ghost into the box or can pick up a loose ball on the edge of the box and put a shot in, great. That's what we want. And if he adds that to his game, then it's going to be very, very difficult for anybody to knock him out of the team. Having said that, a fortnight ago when he got the opportunity, and it should have been an absolutely perfect goal scoring opportunity, and he fluffed it by just side footing it straight at the keeper. And it was that point I was thinking, oh God, is Lewis Miley the right thing? So when he came on, I'm thinking, is this game just starting to pass him by a little bit? Hopefully it's not. Hopefully Lewis has lifted his game and he is grasping it in the right way, and that Eddie's going to give him the opportunities that his performances will rightly deserve. And like I say, if he keeps scoring goals and important goals, then great. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. If you're scoring the goals at Newcastle at the moment, then you should be staying in the team because there's nobody else scoring them. Certainly better players than, players of more experience are not doing it. So give the lad his opportunity.
Okay, the poll is still massively in favour of starting Lewis Miley in the derby, 94% to 6%. Keep voting. I'll stick another poll up in the next 15 minutes. George, Lewis Miley, you briefly touched on him in your last answer, but is it time to give him a run in the team, do you think? Because it's he's good enough. He's quite clearly shown that he's capable.
He's earned it, in my opinion. And you lads and anybody else who's watched for a while will be sick of hearing me say we've got a great player in Lewis Miley. If he had another yard of pace, he'd be a fantastic player. Well, it's coming. He's certainly got more pace than he had. And it's that extra yard that lets him get away from people that he couldn't do before when he was first in the team. He was easily caught and closed down. Not easily caught and closed down now. Plus, with his physical attributes now that he didn't have before, he can now push back as hard as he gets pushed, and that's really, really great for somebody that's in the midfield. So I like the way he plays. To liken him to anybody, I'm going to do this perhaps a silly thing and say he's in many ways like a slightly better Sean Longstaff, because his natural instinct is to play the ball forward. Too many of the midfielders, including some of the international stars he's playing with, when they get the ball, sometimes their first instinct is to to play back to the nearest person or play sideways. Playing forwards what makes the difference. That's what gets you towards the goals. And Lewis Miley has that instinct, in my opinion. And the fact that he was where he was to head a goal just tells me he knows how to read a game. He could see where that ball was going. He could see where Gordon's cross was going to land, and he could see there was nobody there. So he went up the field and did it himself. And that's what you want, and especially in midfield, people who can read the game. And Lewis is reading the game, and I think it's absolutely incredible that we've got a young teenager who, in a midfield that goes from what people are calling the best midfielder in Europe in Tonali to two Brazilians who the whole world seems to like, and that's really something. That's really something, and I find it absolutely great. I think the comparison with Michael Carrick's not a bad one, but as Steve said, he's got more pace than Michael Carrick already, and that makes him quite a dangerous commodity and a very valuable commodity to us. And I wouldn't hesitate him to put him in the team this weekend because he will bring to that team the memories of the last time he played, when a certain O'Neill wiped them out and should have been sent off in that game. Wiped them out in that game and got no retribution. Well, he wouldn't wipe him out now. He would bounce off him. He's so much more solid. So yes, I would play him on Sunday.
The player that we're not linking him towards or comparing him to is a very, very young Frank Lampard when he was at West Ham.
Yes.
And look what Frank Lampard turned into. He turned into a full machine midfielder, box to box. Well, Frank wasn't that when he was at West Ham. He was a little bit more tame, and maybe that was because of the players that he had around him. But when he took his opportunity, he became a very, very valuable commodity first for West Ham. But ultimately, look at what Mourinho did for him at Chelsea, and look what he turned into. And it just shows you what confidence can bring. It shows you when somebody has the confidence in you to give you those opportunities. And I think a run in the team and good results as well. Yeah, a combination of him getting a good run in the team and us getting some good performances and good results and good performances from teammates as well. That will help. And then we might suddenly see, this is a really, really top class footballer, not just a young 19-year-old prospect. At the moment, we seem to be held belt on in the Chronicle on trying to find young 19-year-old and 18-year-old talent from abroad. We've got one on my doorstep.
Couple of really good comments, in the chat there about what were Bruno and Tonali like at his age, and if you want to compare that, it's up to us then to nurture that talent to allow him to become everything he can be, because he's genuinely got the footballing world at his feet. And also, he has learned on the job in the Champions League and the Premier League. And it's not that long ago in Dortmund, you mentioned about me and Stu being in Dortmund, the best midfielder on that pitch that night was a 17-year-old Lewis Miley.
Okay.
And he had no business being on that pitch. And yet he was there, and he was the best midfielder out with a lot of them on the night. And so going forward, genuinely, he can be anything he wants to be.
And he's already making his mark at England level.
Next poll in the chat before the break is goalkeepers. SJP Dave is very happy about this one because it's going his way. Talk of Nick Pope being available at the weekend in the press conference that Eddie held after the game in Leverkusen. So the question in the chat poll is Pope or Ramsdale in the derby. 66% of the people in the chat are saying Pope, Ramsdale 34%. Mitch, if Pope's fully fit and available, did you get back in?
He's got better while he's not been in, hasn't he?
Yes.
I see them both at the minute as two sides of the same coin. I think there are things Pope does that Ramsdale can't, and vice versa. And we have to decide what we want in the derby. Pope is the senior keeper. Pope is the one that the back four are more used to being in front of. Maybe revert to type. To be honest with you, it's. I don't think that's as a big a decision as some people make it out of it.
Steve?
Got to remember, Ramsdale's on loan, and Pope is the number one keeper in Eddie's eyes. And if he's fit, I think he plays. It's as simple as that. And I think if your number one keeper was being kept out by someone who you had on loan and had not nailed down as a player that you wanted to keep, there's nothing's been said. You know, we just paid the £5 million loan fee, and you know, at the moment we seem to be questioning whether we want to spend 25 million on him or we want to hang around for Trafford. You know, you listen to certain people in the press, but we're forgetting that Pope's were a regular goalkeeper. You're right, Mitch. The two contrasting keepers. You know, one is great with his feet. The other one kind of kick a ball with a toffee. One will come off the line for crosses. The other one won't. Neither of them will dominate the box, dominate their own area. None of them are like we've seen goalkeepers in the past where they'll scream if somebody's in a particular area of their pitch. I'm thinking of like the Liverpool goalkeeper Alisson. You know, he commands respect, but he commands his area, and you know, woe betide to anyone who gets in his way, teammate or opposition. I think the other lad that Man City had, I think he was another one who, you know, had all round skills. But these goalkeepers are few and far between. I think some of the issues that Pope's had has been to do with who he's had in front of him, lack of communication, lack of a confidence to demand the ball. You know, I think of the one where he came out and, you know, Chow had the defender going all the way into the corner, and then he goes and fluffs it. Other areas where he's come out and, you know, the ball's gone over his head, and I think it starts to affect them. Goalkeepers one probably the only position in the team where a mistake can linger in the head and really, really affect them. And I think it's quite possible we have two goalkeepers like that, unfortunately, at times. And I think that's probably why, you know, Eddie's taken one out of the firing line, but he talked about saying he was injured anyway. But I still think he'll go for his first choice keeper, which is Pope, if he's fit. Whether he is fit or not.
Said that all season. This whole because he's on loan business is a great get out clause at the moment, and you know, if you believe the papers, we're looking at Trafford again. So it'll be interesting to see whether Ramsdale has the wants to stay, whether Eddie wants him to stay, or whether the club want him to stay. It'll be interesting to see. Yeah. I mean, is Pope straight back in, George, if he's fit?
Yes, for me, he is. What this period's done for me is just cemented my view that we need a first-class keeper. And I'm not talking about either of those two. We need a first-class keeper. And then neither of those are that person. And it's something that interests me about both of them when they're in goal for Newcastle. They have no peripheral vision. Steve Hasty will tell you, sitting next to me on my right side at the match, the number of times I shout, throw it, get it out, pick it up, and they just don't. You see people like Jacob Murphy particularly, and Barnes, and in that week's Elanga, making runs, and they might as well be running up the Gallagher stairs because Pope or Ramsdale never see them. You know, they're still strolling about the box, stopping the ball, trying to keep everything calm when something urgent is needed. And they don't seem to see that urgency. And for me, that's a lack of just peripheral vision of what's going on outside their box world and out on the field together. The only couple of times that Pope's done it, we've got spectacular goals out of it. That mean that throw against, was it Barcelona, the very long throw? You know, let's have more of that, please. But we don't get more of that. It's just happy to do this and happy to do that. And there are occasions as well that frustrate me with both of them. They're happy to let a ball run and run and run until it's a goal kick. Well, if they stepped up and picked it up earlier, there may be a possibility of starting something. They just, that peripheral vision about what's happening outside of that box seems to have disappeared. But maybe that's my jaundiced view of the world. But if Pope's Fitty plays for me on Sunday, I'm afraid. As I say, this latter period where we've had the change has just cemented for me in my mind that we're still in the market for a top keeper. Soon as.
Okay, quick ad break, back after this. A big thanks to our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickys.co.uk. Email info@mrvickys.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. They've just announced their 2026 tours. 2 crew, driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels, no interchanges, hot, cold snacks and drinks available on the coach, all excursions included. Website is unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. It's just £30 per person deposit. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. If you enjoy listening to the podcast, you can try us on Sports Social, and that is Sports Social Podcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes or Spotify or wherever else you listen to your podcasts. Big thanks as well to Media Arts for all the technical side of things. If you want to become a member, you can join as a YouTube member by hitting the join button underneath the video. Don't forget as well, subscribe to the channel. It's free. We still do 7 shows a week. Hit the like button, which is the thumb up, and share to your other social media. If you'd like a badge, a pen, a key ring, and a coaster and a membership card, then you just need to go to our website, nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk, and you can become a member of NUFC Matters via the link on our website. Got a couple of events to tell you about. Beardsley, Waddle and Gascoigne are together at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House. That is the 13th of February 2026. Gibbo is comparing. You can get your tickets from the box office at the theatre or give them a ring on 0191 243 1171. In January, Supermac and Gibbo are teaming up together at the Tyneside Irish Centre to raise money for the North Tyneside Age UK Dementia sector. And your tickets are £19 from voucher, or you can buy them direct from the website, nufcmatters.co.uk. Peter Beardsley will be with Joe Allen on the 30th of January, again for Age UK North Tyneside Dementia. And tickets are available for £29 on voucher or from nufcmatters.co.uk. We're also raising money for Age UK North Tyneside Dementia with another Blake 7 convention, Saturday the 1st of August, 10 till 4. Tickets are £20 for standard, £75 for VIP, and you can get them again from our website. And a couple of stocking fillers for Christmas. The Entertainers by Will Scott. We've got 10 copies signed by Warren Barton, again from the website. My book, The Promoter and the Photographer, written by myself and Andy Thompson. All proceeds going to the dementia sector of Age UK North Tyneside. You can get them again from www.nufcmatters.co.uk. And we've got 8 John Beresford signed cards left, and those 8 will take us to 100 promoter and photographer books sold. So if anybody hasn't got one yet, get yourself to the website and order one, nufcmatters.co.uk, to get your free signed John Beresford card with each book purchased. Okay, time for a little light relief. Here comes a disclaimer. None of these tweets were suggested, written, created by me, Mitch, George, or Steve. Not any responsibility of NUFC matters. They've been sent in by our wonderful viewers, and we don't condone or agree with any of them. Start with a few signs. Anal services, not quite sure what they're offering, but should be a pain in the backside after you've had that. And this one, geez, I only asked for extra salt and vinegar, no need for name calling. Notice, no fishing due to lack of water. Quite obvious, I would have said.
Yeah.
And penis broken, please use finger. Oh no, pen is broken, please use finger. Looks like one of the guys has quit from one of our favourite fast food restaurants.
4 guys.
Now, 4 guys. Tattoos that have gone wrong. As soon as he put his sleeve back down, we realised he made a terrible mistake.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do like a Star Wars tweet on here. Brilliant this for Elf on the Shelf.
Brilliant.
Very clever. And it is getting Christmassy, so we're getting a few Christmassy tweets. Can't wait to get my first kiss this Christmas under the mistletoe.
Oh,
Jesus.
And the big fella's decided to go on strike. That's Santa, by the way, not Steve Hasty.
Exactly. I have had this conversation with 1 or 2 people who did send it to me, by the way.
Yeah. Imagine trying to slag me off when your nickname is an advent calendar because your flaps are always open.
no.
And I bought my wife an artificial leg for Christmas. It's not a main present, it's just a stocking filler, lads.
Oh, very good.
And how did Mary and Joseph get their groceries delivered? On a little donkey.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh.
Jordan Pickford cited in local Walmart. And if you want a bit of entertainment over Christmas, why not try a prostitute? And you just can't post a random forehead and expect people to recognise who it is. It's not Steve Hasty, it's Marv from Home Alone, or the other one. And it's a quiz, lads. It's a quiz. I know you like a quiz. Guess the song.
Jingle Bell Rock.
Well done, Mitch. You got it. You win now, but you got it. Merry Christmas, old chum. May all your mince pies taste like fannies.
Oh,
Well,
Yeah, she was a cook, everybody, before anyone goes on. And so apparently individual toad in the hole isn't the best thing to serve at a dinner party.
would be a conversation starter or stopper.
Kind of thing I would
what's the
do.
matter, dear? You haven't touched your cock.
Only Star Wars fans will see it.
Very good.
Oh, yes.
And Yoda selling houses in Middlesbrough now. There you can. From £39. Couple of Star Trek ones. One day I'm going to start collecting highlighters. Mark my words.
Oh,
And my Gone in 60 Seconds video. What are you looking for? My Gone in 60 Seconds DVD. It was here a minute ago.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's been a man stealing the wheels from cop cars. Police are working tirelessly to catch him.
Oh, dear me.
Found one of my old maths papers this week as well.
Right.
I would have done that.
And some news from the Daily Dafty. Local man diagnosed with budgie flu. Doctors reassured him it's tweetable.
Oh, right.
And local man arrested for masturbating in library. A police spokesman told our reporters we asked him to come quietly.
Oh,
And a new range of Durex have been released this week. Not sure who they're for and who would buy them, but that is genuine. And we'll do like these combination of lookalikes. Denzel Washington,
oh,
Clever.
Morgan Freeman,
Clever.
and a football-related one this week. Paul Mintz. Finishing off with a musical one. Joan Armour trading. I'll take 200 quid for the pair. Some actual tweets and Facebook ones. This one made us laugh. What do who mean? Somebody inboxed us saying, "Are you confused?" And today's just crap. What's wrong? Beer frozen, burnt me pizza, and girlfriend's pregnant. You just can't pull anything out on Tyne, can you?
Oh, damn.
And happening, mate, fancy a wank down by the river tomorrow? I'm guessing autocorrect has kicked in there. Yeah, my bad. I meant the canal, not the river.
Oh, damn, mate.
And got some fuel earlier, and the bloke on pump 3 put £10 in. Where was he driving to? Pump 4? Just made me some cinnamon rolls. Xander replied, just like Grandma used to make. Relationship status, I've got a permanent tremor in my right hand from my vibrator. The reply was, can I borrow your hand two to three times a week? And Anton posted, I live in constant fear that Trump will deport my Latina mother-in-law who lives at 1837 3rd Street, LA, 90023, Blue House. She gets off work at 6. And a book fell on my head. I can only blame myself.
Oh.
No.
And this is what happens when the pilot says we're now flying over 30,000 feet. Always wondered that.
Yes. Good.
And 4 years ago, I asked my first Tinder match out on a date. Today, I asked her to marry me. She said no both times. So here's a picture of a random couple from Google. Barbara, what do you want? I don't know. I've got a lot of shit on my mind. Barbara, say no more.
Me.
And, oh, so close.
Yeah. No cigar.
Cars these days, says this guy, have got too many gadgets. I tried to reverse and it played a video of someone being run over. And it's getting to Christmas. Need to get my singing voice sorted out. When you go camping with your buddies, but you forget the toilet paper, all the leaves are brown.
Oh, God.
A slice of apple pie in Jamaica is $2. It is $2.50 in the Bahamas. These are the pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh.
God's
A
sake.
couple of singing ones to finish. Missing. Last seen working as a waitress in a cocktail bar. And catch you. This is a good one. If you fall, I will catch you. I will be waiting time after time. That Cyndi Lauper is so full of crap, says the old woman who's lying on the ground. And how do you know how heavy a red hot chili pepper is? Give it away, give it away, give it away now.
Oh.
Thank you to everybody who sent them in. Peter Atkinson, Jimmy Moore, Jimmy Wilson, and everybody else who chipped away and sent us a few in. If you want to send us some tweets of the week to feature on the show, NUFC Matters 8092 at gmail.com is the place to send them. And we will feature them on the show after the disclaimer next week. Okay, we're going to start looking ahead to the derby in about 5 minutes' time. Joe will be joining us, Toon Stato, and a mystery guest as well. I'm going to ask you about this, lads, this video that was doing the rounds. I stuck it on Twitter and stuck it onto my Facebook. I think lots of people have shared this. You'll have definitely seen it.
Hello?
Hello, is that Thomas?
Aye, it is, mate, aye.
Thomas, it's just the police. Are you in at the minute? Are you out and about?
No, mate, I'm out grafting now, what's up?
Oh, it's nothing to stress about. All it is Thomas, because of the derby's coming up next Sunday, I've been tasked this moment to go around just to say to people, like, not to go if you're on a ban. Or you've got...
ban, mate?
I know you're not on a ban, but obviously you've had conditions from the past with football related, haven't you?
I have, aye.
And that just... So we can't stop you going on Sunday, next Sunday, sorry, but just advise
I was going to
you
say,
not to
I'm
go.
going anyway, mate, I've got a ticket.
Are you going?
Aye, so all you got to do is just man markers, don't you, and make sure I behave.
For the man marker on you.
I'm going to Germany as well, if that makes you feel any better.
No, they're not bothered. They're just bothered about the derby and it like passing without any issue, really. Are you getting? How are you getting there, on bus or on the?
I can't disclose that with you.
No, that's all right then.
Listen, mate, I'm not on a ban and all that. I've got no conditions to follow now. You know what I mean?
Aye, that's fine, mate. If you're going, you've got a ticket. It's all legit. I take the tickets in your name, is it?
Can't tell you that one either.
Aye, okay, no worries, mate. We'll just advise you. Obviously, it's going to have a massive police presence, so like
Well, I
you
know
want
that, mate. I know what to expect. You know what I mean?
you're obviously a big Newcastle fan, so just don't ruin your chances of continue to go to football, all right?
Well, aye, mate. No problem,
Lovely,
right?
spot on, mate. Thanks very much.
Later.
Cheers, mate. Ta-ra.
Got to be honest. When I thought that was a brilliant piece of marketing by Northumbria Police. I wasn't 100% convinced it was genuine purely because of the guy's reaction on the Ring doorbell. But listen, it was all light-hearted. It was all good banter. It was all very, very polite. In the past, when someone's been in that position, and I know one or two personally who had their doors taken off the hinges about 10 or 12 years ago, because of being in similar kind of situations. And listen, that was a lot different to what we've seen in the past. Maybe that's a slightly different form of policing. What was your thoughts when you saw that, Mitch? I think it's worth debating because it's been all over the internet. Everyone's shared it. Everyone's put it out on their various platforms. Is that a stroke of genius from Northumbria Police? Do you think in the build up to the derby, make it a bit light-hearted and are you disappointed to see that? What's your feelings? The kid's not on a banning order.
Softens a lot. I think you're right. I think there's a lot of PR going on there. We all know people who've had moments in terms of difficulty getting tickets, etc.
I've lost him. Okay, Steve, we'll come to you, mate.
Yeah, the first thing that went through my mind was, as Mitch said, it was a bit like a PR exercise by the police. I thought maybe the clubs had put it out just as a sort of like a humorous aside to a particularly serious topic. And then I thought maybe it was linked to the fact that both clubs have agreed to take 900 less tickets for the derby than they should have, or they could have, for whatever reason. So I think we'll find there'll be 900 less Mackhams at the return Tyne Weir derby, just as there are 900 less Geordies going to the Weir Tyne derby. I'm more interested in that, to be perfectly honest, than I am. But I found it quite humorous. It's slightly different to the way it was back 15 years ago, Steve, when we attended meetings between fans and Northumbria Police and representatives of the clubs to try and calm what at that particular time was some very, very heated social media and other message boards that were flying around at the time. I'm thinking back to 2014 and 2015. I think I remember going to a couple of meetings with Northumbria Police where groups of fans were together in an almost locked room in Gateshead Council, I think it was at the time. I don't know why it was at Gateshead Council, but that's where the meeting was held. Very, very odd. Where Northumbria Police and the matchday commander was laying the law down. Totally different to the way he did there, the officer did there. Very much laying the law down with sort of an attitude of more threat than anything else. You lads need to get the message out there that, if there's bother, you're talking jail time and this type of attitude. And the way that rebounded on them around the room, because I think to a man on both sides of the room, both sets of colours, it was very much a, who do you think you are type of thing. And it kind of antagonised the whole thing. I think Northumbria Police walked out of there, and I think the matchday commander at the time probably thought, have I done the right thing? But then he repeated it the following year or the following derby. So totally different attitude, totally different way of going about it. And I think the fact that it went on social media, and I think that there are probably a lot of, it's so difficult to get a ticket. And then the fear that there is that you'll get lifted for, I mean, look at what they're doing, you can't take You can't take coins. Have coins in your pocket. You can't have vape. You can't have this. You can't take a phone charger with you. All these type of crazy things. It's like, you know, you might as well be going bare chested and just in your shreddies. And I think there are people who would, if they could get away with it, would force that on fans. I suppose it's kind of refreshing as well to think that, you know, there are elements in Northumbria Police who hopefully see the funny side of that, and think most of the fans will see the funny side of it, and will also realise the seriousness of it. You know, that they're not going to be, you know, they're not going to stand for any trouble, but at the same time, just giving a little nod to how lads, you know, just be careful. You don't want to spoil it for yourself. And I think that's what the message that constable was getting over to that particular young fan. But I thought the way that the fan reacted was absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on.
It's why I thought it was a bit of media PR. I thought Northumbria Police had played a blinder. I wasn't 100% convinced.
Well, if they did, Steve, they've got a very, very good actor to take the part of a Northumbria police officer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, it's the kind of thing you do in training, etc. But yeah, listen, it was good to be shared. I think it's got the debate, which is why I've used it on here and why I shared it on our channel. I think very carefully before before sharing other people's material. But yeah, I think everybody started sharing it, and I think it was worthy of debate. Go on, Mitch. You got cut off on your prime with the internet out there.
That was weird. I don't know where that come from. Anyway. You know, I get really tired of the whole football fans constantly part of the problem, never part of the solution.
Yeah.
Constantly blamed for everything in society almost is lumped on football fans. And yeah, there's occasions we don't help ourselves. But that shows a human side of the policing, which I think, you know, we'd all respond positively to. That sort of let's work with you, not against you. How can we make this an experience for everybody that's more positive? So you're right in that way, you know, as a PR exercise, absolute blinder. And I think it then boils down to how the clubs see everything, you know, pushing the agendas they're pushing, how fans may respond beyond that, which something which we might touch on later on, I don't know. But, you know, from a Northumbria police point of view, from a policing point of view, I get the people who say, shouldn't they be off catching real criminals? Shouldn't they be off doing something? But policing's much more than that. And if you can diffuse a situation by putting an arm around someone and saying, look, I know where you come from, then you just didn't spoil it for yourself. And if that stops, you know, one incident would inevitably become two, would inevitably become four, inevitably become 8. If that's the way to stop the fire from gaining traction, then fair play.
You know what, Mitch, as well, what reminded me of was a conversation that was on social media on Thursday after the Leverkusen match, and how many Newcastle fans were on there saying how different were the German police to the French police.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the way that they were, and the German police response being, we hate the French police as well, which I thought was quite humorous, just putting a funny side onto it, you know.
George, what's your feelings?
Well, that was because it's light-hearted and done the way it was. You couldn't take any offence at it. It's got to make you smile, and you're halfway to winning if you can make people smile. But you know, Neil's saying about fans being part of the problem and not the solution. It really does irk me that in this country that anything to do with football and football fans, you're straight into criminality, and that just is ridiculous. You know, it's tiresome, and we're an easy cop out, an easy get out for all the ills in the world, and as football fans. So that was refreshing because it was so light-hearted. It was nicely directed. both the fan and the policeman come out of it with as much credit as the other, and that's great. As I say, if you get people smiling, you're halfway to solving the problem. But there's so many other things, as one of the lads said, that are happening now, where people get their door kicked in before they're asked a question now for things that they write on the computer or say or do. It's just horrendous at the moment. But no, I thought that was quite good. It as I say, it made people smile and will make people smile, and that gets rid of the half the problem. However, having said that, I was chairman of the North Tyneside bench that dealt with the No Shields football riot. I forget who they played in the cup, but they ran onto the park at Appleby Park, and about 20 of them from God knows where, I've forgotten where they were from, ended up in the cells for the weekend, and the police wanted them all sorts of things done to them, and were quite disgusted when the chairman of the bench said that their weekend in the cells was enough. Goodbye. But you know, it really is just football at the moment. But it was a laugh is the important thing.
Yeah, certainly was. Okay, we're going to start looking ahead to the derby now before we finish the show. We've got a lot to get through with this. Newcastle United take on Sunderland. It's the 156th senior competitive Tyne and Wear derby. Takes place on Sunday in SR5. It's a 2 o'clock kickoff and it's live on Sky Sports. 2,528 tickets were received, which is what Sunderland will get when we have them back at St James's next year. The reduced amount follows the decision to close the front balcony sections of the St James's Park away area in the Leazes Level 7 for safety reasons and reduce the allocation accordingly. The maximum number of away fans allowed for Premier League fixtures on Wearside this season so far is 3,086. Match tickets have come in digital format. The ticket transfer scheme isn't in operation for this game. You must read the email that you've had if you're travelling to the game from the club. There is some very important guidance which has come from the club. Do's and don'ts, things you can take, things you can't take. Phone banks, vapes and coins are all banned, for example. But go on and have a look on there for your information. There's no requirement. There's no requirement to travel on buses provided by Newcastle. These had to be pre-booked and bookings have now ended. Buses, if you are getting on the bus, it'll depart from St James's Park between 11 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. Wristbands will be issued. They need to be displayed to obtain access to the bus for the return trip, which will be post-match, obviously. Team news from Newcastle: William Asula, Kieran Trippier, Sven Botman are all unavailable, but as I've already mentioned and we've discussed, Nick Pope could be in contention for a return to the team. Joe Linton's a doubt following his substitution against Leverkusen with a groin problem, but obviously with Eddie doing his press conference after the game on Wednesday, lots could have changed between Wednesday and today, so we don't really know. As for Sunderland, Luke O'Neill is suspended after he's sending off. They have a couple of players returning as well. Peter Banks is the referee. It's his fourth Premier League appearance this season in charge of a Newcastle fixture. He was in charge of the 0-0 draw at Leeds, the 2-0 win over Forest and the 2-1 win over Fulham. A lucky referee. VAR is Stuart Atwell. And if you aren't going to the game and you want to watch it in a pub in town, why not pop along to the Dog and Parrot, Freight in the Big Market or Pumphrey's in the Big Market. You'll also find live coverage at Wonder Bar in the Gate. And as always, Razor and Ando will be giving you some great coverage on the club's website and also on Radio Newcastle. So you won't miss a spot of the game at all. Okay, as always, we're going to have Toon Stato, then we'll have Toon Tipster, and we've got a special guest.
Hello everyone, I hope you're back from Germany, from that exciting Champions League game on Wednesday. And now the big one on Sunday. The derby is back in the Premier League. First Premier League game against these guys since 2016. Actually, Newcastle has not won the derby in the Premier League 9 games in a row, which is the longest run that Sunderland have been on in this derby in their entire history. Actually, Newcastle lost the last 3 games at the Stadium of Light, They have never lost 4 away games in a row against Sunderland, again in the entire history of Newcastle. And talking of long runs, Newcastle actually are on a run of 8 consecutive games where they have both scored and the opposition scored against them. The last time Newcastle had such a run was back in 1960-1961. Sunderland at the same time are very strong at home. Along with Arsenal, they are the only 2 clubs that are still unbeaten. And Sunderland have won 15 of their entire points at home, which is more than the entire season 2017 when they were lost in the Premier League. When it comes to Newcastle, the last game against Everton, they registered their first win away from home for 9 games and the first for the season. And Bruno Guimaraes actually is in top form when it comes to scoring with 5 goals. But all 5 came at home. He hasn't scored away from home yet. Anthony Gordon almost went 1 full year without scoring a goal in the Premier League. But now he scored in his last 2. He has never scored in 3 games in a row for Newcastle, as well as no Newcastle player has scored 3 penalties in 3 consecutive games in the Premier League. Gordon is also now on 2. Big one on Sunday. Let's see what happens. We'll be watching. Away the lads.
Thank you, Andreas. Sorry I missed you in Germany. Over to Toon Tipster. Joseph, good evening.
All right.
Good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Someone said we've got a game on Sunday, so I thought I'd better pop on. Is that right?
Yes, we have, mate. Yes, we have.
Have we? Right. All right then.
Go on, then, mate.
Anyway,
What have we got for us?
Yeah, I'll crack on. The team that we are playing, they are 9-4 for the unthinkable to happen. The draw is the same price, which actually might not be a bad shout, all things considered. But the most important thing is the bookmakers have got Newcastle United favourites to win the game. We are 5-4, so just under even odds for us to win away from home. There's 45 players I've never heard of on their list. There's one called Isador. Apparently he's 8-5. Mr. Blobby. No, Brian Brobby, I think he's called. He's 5-2. And the Timu Tonali Enzo Lafay, he's 3-1 a score. But never mind them. It's not going to happen in a million years. Big Nick, he's 17-10. Anthony Gordon, as Andreas just said, to keep up the good work, he's 3-1. I heard you talk about Lewis Miley earlier. He is 6-1 to be a hero. And Big Dan, just for you, Barry, and for you, Mr. Hasty, he is 14-1. So they're quite wide odds for Big Dan. But given the fact that he likes to pop up with an important header in important games, why not? Johan Wisser, as long as he gets longer than 30 seconds at the end of the game, if he's over his cold and flu symptom, and of course his cruciate knee ligament injury, he is just under 2-1 to become an instant hero. 1-0 Newcastle, 13-2. 2-0 is 9-1, and if you think we can go to the dark side and do a penman, you can have 16-1 to win 3-1. Ones each is 5-1, and a 2-all cracker is 12-1. I'm not even going into the prices for the other lot. You can get some money on them if you think they'll do it. There's loads and loads of money to be earned on the yellow cards. It is inevitable if he plays that, of course, Joe Linton will pick one up. Tonali, Guimaraes, depending on what head he's got on, Granit Xhaka, and that big Tatey Dan Ballard at the back. There's money to be made if you think they'll get a yellow card. Granit Xhaka is 25-1, as is Joe Linton, to get a red one, and Bruno Guimaraes is 28-1. It's just over 3-1 if you think there will just be a red card in the game. We can't do the North East treble this week, obviously. So in the spirit of Christmas, if there's a draw up the road for me, down the road for you, and Middlesbrough beat QPR, you can have 5-1. There's loads and loads of money to be made this weekend. I just hope it comes in a black and white fashion. There you go. What could go wrong?
Good stuff. What could possibly go wrong? Good to have you on. We'll get your views on the derby in due course. Most of you know we do a show on here called Three's a Crowd with my good friends Invictus from Middlesbrough, and Ed the Mackham is joining us tonight. Good evening. How are you?
Evening, lads. Evening, lads. Even the dog was disagreeing with that synopsis of the betting odds there. It's gone absolutely wild. The big tatey Dan Ballard. There's only one big Dan in the northeast, Bonnie lad.
Here he goes. Welcome, Ted.
Thank
welcome
you,
back.
Material there.
Welcome back to the Premier League, and it's been an interesting show that we've made over the last couple of years. People don't believe Northeast football fans can have a sensible conversation, but we can. So yes, exactly. So tell us what your feelings are going into this game. You've had a great start. Sunderland have had a great start of the season. Nobody can deny that. It's there for all to see. How are you feeling about your return to the Premier League first and foremost?
The derby's a bit like a stag do, isn't it? You're excited about it. You can't wait to get on the pop, but then you're just left feeling sick about it, to be honest. And that's the stage I'm at right now. It's totally different to the last time. The derby in the cup game just felt like we felt it was inevitable that we were going to get drubbed because it was the Michael Beale era. Which the less said about that, the better. To be honest, it was probably. That felt a lower time than what it did spending 5 years in League One, to be honest with you. So yeah, that last derby just, I don't know, it didn't have the same feel. Obviously, we rolled out the red carpet, we decorated the bar, all that kind of thing. We made you lads feel at home. There was just nothing for the Sunderland fans, really, which was a bit of a shame considering it was a home game. This time it feels different. And, you mentioned about the Northeast football connection. It feels different. The whole Northeast football scene feels a bit different. I honestly think we're on the cusp of a real purple patch for Northeast football. Sunderland have started the season far better than any fan would ever dare admit. Let's be perfectly honest about it. We've started in a fashion that's took everybody by surprise. We're playing decent football. We're very, very difficult to beat, unless you're Man City, obviously. Other than that game, we're being proven to be difficult to beat. Arsenal couldn't see a way through us. Chelsea couldn't see a way through us. So there's a bit of optimism about it. Newcastle, obviously, flying in Europe. They're an established European side now for me, and I'm one of them honest Mackems lads. I'll give credit where credit is due. I think you've got some fabulous players. Steve knows I rave about Anthony Gordon. I think when he's on form, he's possibly one of the best players in the England squad. He is one of the best players in the England squad. There's no doubt about it. Lost his way a little bit recently, but I think he's on his way back, and I think he's one of the danger men for it. As far as the Sunderland fans are concerned looking into this, it does have the feeling of one of the biggest derbies for a long, long time. And obviously, yes, it's been a good while since we played each other in the Premier League. I don't think the 6 in a row counts for anything anymore. We've got to start all that all over again. And I think it's just two sides, one that's really surprised people, one that's absolutely filled with quality, going toe-to-toe in this derby. It just feels like one of the biggest we've had for decades, to be honest with you.
Okay, good stuff. I wouldn't disagree with you any on that. Barry says, great to see Ted on the banter between the three of you on Three's Your Crowd's amazing. Thanks, mate.
Cheers, Barry.
We're going to go around, which is what we do on a Friday. So we're going to come to you last because obviously we want to know what your feelings are in the game and your predictions. So I'm going to go to Mitch first. Mitch, Newcastle trip to Wearside is, for me, something I always enjoy. I always enjoy the build-up. I think it's great. I love a derby week. I know there's a lot of people don't like it. How are you feeling? How are you feeling about this game then? After the draw in Leverkusen,
more relaxed than many, I think. I think you've got to look at it realistically. That I hear people talking about, we're away form so poor and this, that, and the other, and then in the next breath you'll say, but form goes out the window for a derby. So are we the exception to that, or does that apply to everybody or nobody? You've got to respect Sunderland for what they've done this season. I give them no hope coming up. They spent a lot of money. I've got to say, I watched them against Burnley early on in the season, and they still looked 30 points behind Burnley in that game. But whatever they've done since that, you've got to respect that. They've got a squad who fight for each other, and they've got a squad who will play to 99 minutes. Now, bearing in mind what we talked about earlier tonight, about late goals, one thing I do not want to be in a position of is being 2-1 up with 10 minutes to go, because I can guarantee they will equalise. So, you know, that is something which you've got to, you know, look at. If you take the players individually, I don't think anybody can look at those two squads and say there's a comparison in some ways. But league tables don't lie. And they are where they are on their merit and what they've done. And I've seen a few other games with them. You know, if I'm up at Rob's and we've got a few games on the go, the Mackham game's usually on in the background somewhere. Because certainly he was spitting feathers when they did Chelsea.
Yeah.
But that again was the togetherness, the desire to play to 96, 97, 98 minutes. And that's what you've got to respect out of that. I think it's an interesting insight into the mindset of the club. The video they released on social media today, saying the battle resumes, starting with a challenge that ended in a red card, and halfway through another challenge that broke one of our players' legs. And it's full of challenges which are either two-footed or nasty or after the event. And if that's what they want, we can't get dragged into that. If we get dragged into that, we'll get dragged down to that level and we'll lose that level. We've got to rise above that. I would like, you know, nothing would please me more to see Granit Xhaka lose his nut on 10 minutes because somebody in the club's got him stoked up and he goes two-footed on someone and they're down to 10 men after 10 minutes. I don't think that's going to happen either, because I think there's enough professional heads in there saying, stop that happening. And I don't think that's the style of our manager either. There's a difference between being willing to fight for your comrades and being a dirty team. And everything I've seen of them this season, they're not a dirty team. So I think we have to match the desire, match the work rate, and match the passion, and then the quality should out. But I've said this God knows how many times this season when we've decided to sort of shoot ourselves in the foot, especially away from home. But, you know, I think realistically, I'm glad he didn't make too many changes against Leverkusen. I think he will make a couple of changes on Sunday, but not many. And we should have enough in the tank to see this out.
Okay, what's the dice say, Mitch?
The dice says 1-1.
Okay, the dice has got a terrible record, by the way, for anyone just tuning in.
He does.
What's your prediction? Mine, I'll remind people, was Newcastle to win 2-1 with a last-minute goal for Newcastle.
2-0 to us. It'll be wrapped up by half-time.
Okay. George, come to you.
Yes. Well, as always with me, it's something I always look forward to. Even in the 80th year of me supporting Newcastle United, the derby's always special. I bemoan and regret the way things have gone in terms of the way it's whipped up by people into something that it's not, which I find quite sad. I mean, I'm old enough to remember getting on a bus to go up the Derby through the tunnel in Jarrow with my dad, and riding on a Sunderland bus to go to the bloody Derby match. Do you think I could do that now? No chance. So you know that bit of it, but it's always something I look forward to. It's very important in terms of football generally, not just locally. I agree with our Sunderland friend. I think we are in for a purple period with North East football. Especially if the Borough come up this year and we have a little North East corner where we can fight back against all the other corners in the Premier League. which would be nice. In terms of the match, I've got to say, and I've watched quite a few Sunderland games, and I've got to say that the Sunderland game against Arsenal recently was one of the best Premier League's matches of the season that I've seen, and I can't give them any higher praise than that. That was as good a game as I've seen, and they did well in that. So know what we're facing. If there is a side of the derby, this particular derby, that I think we have a slight advantage is that most of ours have played in the derby before, where most of theirs don't even know what a derby's about. So they've got some education to do. And it'll be blood and thunder. I've got no doubt about that. And people have mentioned 2 players already. Well, it wouldn't surprise me to see Joe Linton and Grant Xhaka get red cards during the game for whatever it is that they would do. In terms of how I feel about the game, I think, interestingly, very like my son, I think 2-0 to Newcastle, and that's how it'll go. With Anthony Gordon playing a massive part in the game, the way he's playing at the moment. So I'm looking forward to it. Great thing, and it's absolutely fantastic to have our colleagues in Sunderland back in the Premiership.
Good stuff, George. Steve?
Mitch mentioned Chelsea Rob there. I was at Chelsea Rob's last Saturday, and he was still spitting feathers about that game. To be honest, no word of a lie. In fact, we were watching the Newcastle match, and he had the Chelsea game on the other TV. One of about 4 TVs that were had playing different games at the time. In his little sort of pool room. That's the best way to describe it, I think.
Basement bar is what you describe it.
Well, yeah, I know that.
There's worse bars in bloody Dubai than there are in his house.
His basement bar, put it that way. And he was saying exactly the same about the Chelsea performance that he was watching on the other screen. Sunderland have been you're right. They've been the surprise package of the season. Just before the transfer window ended, you went through a phase of just buying and buying and buying players that, quite honestly, nobody had heard of. And I'll defy anyone on our side that can tell you that they knew who Noah Siddiqui was, and knew who the goalkeeper was. That these were unknowns. They genuinely were. And on Tyne's side, and among the group that I hung around, we thought you turned into a laughing stock. You just seemed to be throwing money, good money after bad, on players that nobody knew. The defining moment in Sunderland's transfer window was the signing of Grant Xhaka. Mm-hmm. And subsequently, I've heard some amazing things about the way that he has, as a leader, when we were talking about leaders earlier, as a leader, he's got the grips with the dressing room. He got the grips with the training sessions. He got the grips with the Academy of Light. He's changed the whole dietary ways and means. He's now got players eating the type of food that they like. He's got, players from various parts of the world who have joined the club who are now getting the option to eat, whether it's French food, Belgian food, African food, South American food that they're used to. Changed all of that, changed the mentality. There's a different mentality at the Stadium of Light among some of the people behind the scenes that Kirill's brought in. And I think it's a credit to Kirill, because I think, to be perfectly honest, I think people thought he was going to be out of his depth. He was out of his depth, but I think he's come over now as he did have some sort of a plan. And I say that because I know the guy, and I've met and chatted to him on a number of occasions and taken the match. I was at the West Ham game, first game of the season, and it was a shocking first half. And then next thing you know, you rolled away with it. You got 3 goals, and I suddenly went, "Oh, dear me, this is going to go one or two ways." They're either that was a one-off, and perfectly honest, I was hoping it was a one-off, but it sort of became that it wasn't a one-off, and it's yes, it is good for the Northeast, I suppose, in one respect. Certainly good if you're a red and white. I don't think it really is something good if you're a black and white, to be perfectly honest. Everybody wants to be top dog. We want to be top dog. You want to be top dog. That purple patch of football, I'll be honest, I hope that purple patch involves just Middlesbrough and Newcastle. To be honest, yeah, they're
Appreciate the
the
honesty.
patches I like. I'll not be disappointed if you stay up. I'm just wondering whether the bubble's going to burst, or whether it is really a bubble, or whether you've got something that's really, really going to mature again in the second half of the season after Christmas. You have put in some decent performances, but some of the performances have been sort of, somebody said, like Sheffield United when they came up. In terms of the atmosphere, we know it's going to be electric. We just hope that it doesn't spill onto the pitch, as Mitch says, with some of the flying tackles. And it would be nice to think that both teams could put on a performance that the rest of the country would admire for the football talent on the pitch, rather than some crazy loose tackles and that type of thing. And at the moment, we're all sort of going on about Joe Linton doing this and the Tonali battle with Xhaka or with Siddiqui or whatever, I just hope that at the end of the day that, everybody enjoys the game. I would naturally hope that we come on top, but I think we're looking at a 2-2 draw. I think it's got the potential to be one of those. It's either going to be the most dour, horrible, ridiculous game, or we're going to see some absolutely brilliant football end to end, and we're going to see goals. And at the end of it, we're all going to turn around and go, that was a great game. Well done, both teams. Let's hope it is like that. Let's hope 3-2 would be better, but I'll stick with 2-2.
2-2. Okay, Joe, what's your prediction?
Yeah, I can't decide whether I enjoy these games or I just want to ride under the settee, Steve, to be honest. I've never quite made my mind up about it. But I am looking forward to the game, and I'm looking forward to it this season for some reason. I think I will give credit where credit's due. I think Sunderland have done a fantastic job. Their ability to run for 100 minutes, their ability to kind of work for each other, and sometimes, and we know this, the early days of Eddie Howe and right up until kind of recent times, really, sometimes hard work and endeavour makes up for the lack of quality. So they're doing something right. The mission is to get 38 points and stay up, and they're well on the way to doing that. Whether, as Steve said, and Ted will know better than me, I'm led to believe that there'll be a cohort of good players leaving to play for their countries for a month. Be interesting to see what the impact of that is. So surely the mission was, let's get as many points on the board as we can, and that's what they've done. And not only had some decent results, they've had some excellent results, and some results that I wish we were capable of going and getting. The Chelsea game in particular springs to mind. So I think it'll be an interesting one. The battle is always, many football games are won in the middle of the park, aren't there? And I think which middle of the park turns up for us. Is Joe Linton fit? If he is fit, can Eddie Howe put a lid on him? Is he going to do the job we need him to do? I thought he started really well in Leverkusen. I thought he looked good, and then obviously, unfortunately, had to come off the pitch. Is it a game, one too far for Lewis Miley, or do we just throw him in and let quality do its thing, and hopefully he'll come out unscathed? Is Anthony Gordon going to play like the Gordon that Ted described, or are we going to get the one that's a bit hit and miss and there's no one to pass to? Nick Waltermader, as wonderful as he is, he'll have never experienced much like this before, especially with that big tatty as Ted loves all over his back. So, I think there's going to be interesting battles all over the place. I heard you guys talking about the goalkeeper. Is it the game that we bring Nick Pope back in and hope he just doesn't kick it, and that'll do us a favour? Which Newcastle turns up? Because if it's the Newcastle that went to Everton, if it's the Newcastle that have played really well, particularly in some of the Champions League games, I think we'll be all right. I always think we'll be all right, as long as it's that Newcastle that turns up. If it's the Newcastle that's going to be a bit nervy, a bit edgy, the one that's not going to quite tick up front, is it going to be Barnes? Is it going to be Elanga? Is it going to be Jacob Murphy? is Wissa fit enough to come on and impact the game? Who knows? There's a million questions attached to this. My heart will always say that we're good enough to beat anybody, Sunderland or Man City. It doesn't matter. We'll go there and we'll win 2-0. My head says something slightly different. I noticed the prices. My eyes were initially drawn to 1-1. And I think given the heavy schedule, we've got a cup quarter final to think about midweek. We're trying to claw into those Champions League positions. You'd take a draw, wouldn't you, all things considered? So, glass half full, we'll win 2-0 and we'll perform very, very well, and we'll get rid of this nonsense about we can't win away and we're struggling and all the rest of it. But actually, the realist in me thinks, a very, very good, hard-fought 1-1 draw.
Okay. Ted, you got 2 minutes to give us your prediction.
I'll address the thing about the African Nations Cup because everybody's rubbing arms like Monty Burns off The Simpsons. It's not going to affect us anywhere near as much as we thought it was. Habib Diarra is injured. He's still recovering from a groin operation. It is up to Senegal whether they take him or not to the African Nations Cups, but he's not going to be fit certainly for the group stage. So I kind of see him going. I think he'll be staying here. And I think he'd be ready for the games after the Newcastle game. The same with Adingra. Adingra wasn't called up to the Ivory Coast squad, so he's available for the game and available for the subsequent games after that as well. I think this is won or lost in the midfield. I can't remember who mentioned the midfield now, but this has all the hallmarks of a blood and snot derby. It really does. I think the midfields are physical players. Whether Joe Linton plays or not, whether it's Miley, I still think you get that competitive edge. You get that bite from Newcastle. The same with Siddiqui. Siddiqui's a very physical player. He's only a small lad, but he's very, very physical. Xhaka are obviously snapping into tackles. And Lefebvre, for us, for all he's a creative midfielder, he actually doesn't mind getting stuck in as well for quite a diminutive guy. I think this is... there's goals in this game, and I've cursed it now, and obviously it's going to be 0-0. But there's goals in this game. I think if Isidore is on form, he can finish. He'll take chances. His pace can worry the any sort of pairing of central defenders. He just needs to be on his game because he's missed a couple of chances in the last few. Having said that, we're proven to be susceptible to conceding goals now. It's great that Reinildo's back in the squad because we missed him against Man City big time. The guy is quality. You'll see that he looks like a guy who played at Atletico Madrid under Simone. He's a quality player. Having said that, yeah, goals all over the park here. I'm going for a Desmond. I think it's 2-2 all day long.
2-2 from Ted. You've heard it from him first there from the Sunderland camp. We are back with Freezer Crowd on Sunday. Time to be confirmed. Probably about 9 o'clock, I would say, is probably the time. We're back on NUFC Matters in the morning for our 1 hour professionals. 10 to 11 with Mitch and Stu. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Thanks to George. Thanks to Steve. Thanks to Joe and to Mitch. Thanks to you watching at home. If you haven't subscribed, please do. And thanks very much to Ted coming on. See you on Sunday, Bonnie lad. Take care, everybody. Good night.
Thanks, lads.
Hey, guys.